Pressure.
I can't pull the microphone any closer.
They probably have them tied. Yeah.
We can move the clock up about
According to my clock.
a bit. Oh, I got 7 o'clock.
All right.
Official Verizon time. I call this September 13th, 2018 UAC meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment? Any member of the public wish to come forward? Seeing as nobody come forward, consent agenda. Anybody like to remove an item from the consent agenda? I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion Krebin, second Waldman to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Old business item number 1.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. This item was tabled by Commissioner Clint, and I have Juan Delgado, he's the line maintenance superintendent, that he can provide more information as why we recommend going with Mayor.
Good evening. I'll just probably remember the presentation from your last meeting, so I'll just touch on the highlights of it. We have a combination Vector hydro truck that we use to maintain our sewer lines with. And we have approximately 500,000 feet of sewer lines that we have to maintain. But we've had new developments this year, so you can add another 4,000 feet to that. The city's growing every year, so we have more footage that we have to maintain. And that maintaining includes our annual sewer line cleaning, our monthly sewer line cleaning. Crews have been pulling hose for several years now to the backyards of residents. And they have to pull approximately 400 to 500 feet in order to accomplish a 400-foot run. And in doing this, it's putting a real strain on them, not only on the physical, but also in the backyards of residents where we have so much landscaping that the crews have to deal with. You can see by that picture, this is an open area to where they're pulling hose and snaking it. But if you was in a backyard where you've got trees, bushes, shrubs and stuff, you're very limited to an area that you can snake that hose to. And in some instances, they have to do a run twice in order to get the length of hose they needed to make that 400-foot run, because there's not enough room in the backyard to support that 500 feet of hose. Then you remember that the risk that Shannon Templeton gave you, showing the 21% strains by workers, and 29% of all the costs were related to those strains. And Travis Bennett, risk coordinator with Spice and Workers' Comp Consultant, estimated that an injury can well cost over $100,000. And safety is one of our highest priorities that I stress with the employees every day when they go out there to work. I'll go over to the comparisons of equipment. I think that's what you was more interested in. Meyer's easement machine is more compact than the others. It's 34 inches wide, 69 inches tall, and 86 inches long. And this weighs only 2,800 pounds. The other easement machines are 31 to 3,200 pounds. Their engine is fully enclosed. They have a built-in fuel and hydraulic tanks. All the other manufacturers, their fuel and hydraulic tanks are mounted to the outside of the engine, and their compartments are fully open. With that, it makes it safer for the operator and much quieter for better communication between the operator and the co-workers. An additional safety feature is that when the drive lever is released, this machine goes into park. It doesn't go into neutral, as I found out that other machines do. And they told me they depend upon their weight to prevent movement. Another question was brought up about, Elliott had a quote in there with their easement machine quote for a trailer of $2,976. And Meyer had a quote telling me that a trailer would cost around $4,000. So regarding these trailers, the city, I could purchase a 3,000-pound axle trailer for just the cost of $1,000. For us, that seems to be a better investment than Elliott, what Meyer can provide. Other options, and there's options with different outriggers, just like if you purchase a vehicle, they'll come with different options and the costs go up. So options like the outrigger, spotlight, plug-in and stuff will cost around $1,200. But these are included with the Meyer easement machine quote. Key Equipment, Red Municipal, and Elliott, they couldn't give a delivery date if you did choose to purchase one from them. And I found out recently that one of the manufacturers, that they quit making that sidetrack easement machine, and they've gone completely to a different model. Key Equipment and Red Municipal, their machines aren't walk-behinds. They have a larger platform that the operator stands on to drive their machine to where their location is. And it's about 14 to 16 inches above the ground. I don't think that's a very good safety feature or convenience to have with those machines for where they've got to go. So I'd recommend not even including those vendors. We thoroughly reviewed all the specifications, quotes, and demonstrations from these vendors. And we believe that Meyer Equipment is the best easement machine for us to purchase. Because the reel spool is slower, it's more centered to gravity than the other easement machines are. And with that puts that level line system to where it's roughly waist high. And you have to be at that height in order to run the manual spool reel for when you're reeling in the jitter hose or letting it back out. The engine, because it's enclosed, it makes it so much quieter. And the compact size and the weight of that machine, because it's only 2,800 pounds versus a 31 to 32, makes it for a lighter footprint when it's going into residential yards. So we recommend that you would recommend to purchase that easement machine to go before the city council. I believe you have the quotes and everything that you need. If you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. I think the main hang-up was, well, since all four of them were just completely different in the quotes, want to make sure due diligence was being done. Like the Elliott included the trailer, and since we didn't need a trailer, that made the Elliott quote the low-cost bid.
Yes.
And so if we're going to recommend not the low-cost bid, we wanted to make sure we had all the justification needed.
Sure, I can
Because,
understand.
I mean, council will question why we didn't go with the lowest bidder on something like
Right.
that. But you have 4 different machines and,
But this is different than putting anything out to bid because the cost of it is under $50,000. So it doesn't have to go out to a formal bid like normal equipment would. We consider ourselves very thrifty at our purchases, even if it's just a $20 purchase at Porcelain's. Because we have to be accountable and responsible for the city's funds that we use. 'Cause we're taxpayers in the city too.
right.
So it's not so much a cost, it's more to the safety of the equipment itself that we're using. We've heard these other Ease machines running, and you have to wear earplugs or headphones because they are very loud. And the Myers equipment, because it was enclosed, and they must probably have a better muffler system on it, you can stand there and have a reasonable conversation without raising your voice. And that's important because the operator of that easement machine will be 100 feet away from the back truck. The back truck, when it's running, is over 100 decibels. And earphones and earplugs are required to operate in that. So the quietness of this machine will be very important for hand signals that another crew member would use upstream to the manhole and back and forth of that nature.
Questions? I have no question. We've already talked about it.
Well, I thought the original request was to get a quote from Red Equipment Manufacturer. I thought that was really what we were asking.
Red Equipment is a generic machine. As I mentioned about options and stuff on there, their machine doesn't have a dewatering valve on it, which is very important because coming cold weather, climate weather, you want to be able to dewater that hose reel, get water out so that nothing freezes on it. And they don't have the option. They have the options, but they did not have them in with the quote for the outriggers and for the spotlight on there. And they didn't have a tool circuit with them. The tool circuit is a small Hippo unit that crews can use hydraulic tools off of there when they're in the manhole and have to do any work. If they have to do any chipping or drilling or something of that nature to repair a bench or a trough. Red Equipment didn't have that on there. So if you added that in there, why, I'm sure it would probably bring it up to near that $50,000 mark. And there are platform-driven easement machine that you have to stand right on. And we didn't want something like that.
Anything else? Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve recommendation of City Council to award a supply contract to Meyer Equipment Supply in the amount of $49,895 plus taxes, insurance, and shipping for an easement machine.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion Waldman, second Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Got yourself an easement machine. New business item number 1.
Thank you.
Wonder it wasn't on.
As you may know, we have a water treatment facility, Hillsdale, capable of producing 4 million gallons of water a day. It was first built in 1998, then it was expanded in 2006. The water treatment process is controlled by a SCADA system, which stands for Supervisor Control and Data Acquisition, using a Wonderware software. The plant has 2 computers, which were upgraded in 2016. In 2015, there was a utility assessment done on, for the water, electric, and wastewater. And they recommended that the facility maintain a spare parts inventory for emergencies to better support the SCADA system. In 2016, the plant got hit by a lightning storm. 50% of the plant went on manual operation, and we were able to recover and operate the plant in manual. We didn't have any spare parts, so we had to request emergency service from the SCADA provider. It took about 2-3 days to restore the system. So having spare parts on hand is very critical for the operation of the plant. The assessment also recommended an upgrade of the radio communication system. Right now, we have 4 water tanks or towers. The level is controlled by a SCADA radio communication. So each tower has a radio modem system that communicates with the water treatment plant. So they send the signal, the levels, and the pumps kick in, turn off, depending on the level. The radios are over 10-15 years old, so they need to be upgraded. So this business item is for the getting spare parts and replacing the existing radio modem communication system. The spare parts, we receive a quote from System Manufacturing Incorporated. They are our SCADA support consultant. They're the sole source for the SCADA system, spare parts, and installation. So the cost for the spare parts is $21,617. The radios are made by General Electric. Staff requested 3 quotes, one from General Electric, one from Instrumart, and one from RSP Supply. Since they're the same model, RSP Supply has the lowest quote for supplying 7 radio modems units. This is a project that is in the 2018 CIP WA 1802. We originally budgeted $140,000. So it's the staff recommendation to approve her recommendation to City Council to purchase critical spare parts for $21,617 from System Manufacturing Incorporated in a radio communication system for $8,508 from RSP Supply, plus taxes and freight charges.
I would assume this SCADA system will carry us into the foreseeable future.
Yes, sir. When we were reviewing this item, we contacted our SCADA consultant, and they said, no, the SCADA should be good for the next 5-7 years.
So there's no further upgrades out of that $140,000.
No. Now, this project was put in back in 2015 when we did the utility assessment. But we have reviewed with the SCADA technician, and they said, no, the SCADA looks good, the software was upgraded, the PCs or the main control units were updated, so the only thing you need right now is spare parts, and you need to upgrade your radio communication system.
And, I mean, I'm assuming you agree with all the recommendations that came from the provider of the equipment. This list was generated by systems, or
Manufacturing, systems manufacturing.
they came up with the recommendations that you should buy. It wasn't from our staff or.
Well, they provided the recommendation, our staff review it, and
Okay.
based on the recommendation, that makes sense.
Okay. So I'll make sure it's, even the staff thinks we need.
No, the staff
to-
had input
Yeah.
on
Okay.
the spare parts.
Good. Questions? Nope. Entertain a motion?
Motion to approve recommendation of the city council to purchase critical supply parts for $21,617 from Systems Manufacturing, Inc., and a radio communication for $8,508 from RSP Supply, plus taxes and freight.
Second.
Motion Criven, second Waldman. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? New business item number 2.
Scott.
Good evening, gentlemen. For you who don't know me, I'm Scott Melton, the Water Resource Recovery Superintendent. What we're going to talk about this evening is the replacement of our overhead bridge crane. I include some pictures, but I forgot to send them to Cindy, so I will hand these and let you guys kind of look at what we're talking about. Be a little easier to pass those around. That's basically what we're replacing on that would be the overhead yellow gantry part. The structure actually stays. What we're going to be replacing is the movement parts. So the crane that we're talking about was actually put in when the plant was built in '02. What we basically use that, have 4 74 horsepower motors that we take in and out, our submersible pumps, and that's what we're working on. Anchor Sales and Service usually does our service work. They basically go ahead and stick their stickers on every year, make sure that they're actually working the way they're supposed to be working. They brought it up to my attention that the grounding rods on the crane itself, OSHA requires us to do some new grounding now. Some of our controls on the crane quit working. The parts that we were trying to get for the crane are non-operational anymore. You can't even get them. So they were talking about actually buying and purchasing and making parts. So this was part of our CIP project that we put on WW1806. The existing crane, like I said, was put in when the plant was there. It's 16 years old. What we're looking to do is actually replace it. We had 3 bids from B.I. Brooks and Sons, Anchor Sales and Service, which actually does our service work, and Mackey and Sons. And what we ended up with was B.I. Brooks and Sons. They were actually the lowest with $50,120. And they all were pretty competitive. Mackey and Sons was a little bit more pricier. They were on the $10,000. And I think a lot of theirs are out in western Kansas, and I think a lot of theirs was more the shipping, the transportation to get it up here. The other guys are all pretty local. Our recommendation is to purchase the B.I. Brooks and Sons overhead crane for $50,120. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
There's no, I mean, the electrical that's there is.
The electrical's fine. The problem is the grounding bars on there. There are actually 3 bars that go down the side of the crane. Per OSHA standards, anytime that we're grandfathered in now, but as soon as we touch that crane and do some type of upgrades, we're gonna have to put that 4th grounding bar in. It's not that big a deal, really. It's only, I think it was only another $2,000, but the crane hoist itself is basically non-operational. The problem with the crane is when they put the crane in originally, the crane was actually rated for indoor use instead of outdoor use. So we've been fighting this for years and years and years. Basically the structure and the components that they put in there, the box, every year we have to go up and we got holes drilled into the plug. We've actually got to pull the water out, the condensation builds up in there, so it's actually rated for indoor use. It was kind of one of them whoops when the plant was being built. Who would have thought? But they actually, when they bought it, it was actually bought for inside. So for the purpose of being inside, it's great, but for outside, what we're doing, the ice builds up on the rails, the guide rail that runs it back and forth.
Right.
So basically, in the wintertime, when we have to pull pumps, and which is, when we service them is quite often, we basically have to get Bruce's guys or use our boom truck actually to go down there and pull it. So basically, the way it sits right now, the crane is unoperational. So the structure on the outside will all stay the same. Basically, what we're replacing is anything that you see that's yellow that runs north and south, that's what's going to be replaced.
And the vendor's okay installing it on that?
Yeah, no, they're fine. The structure, we had the engineers come out, look at the structure, the concrete that it's sitting on is all fine. It's basically the mechanism, the trolley motor that actually runs the crane north and south, and the crane itself goes east and west. So I'd go through all the slides, but I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
They were actually, B.I. Brooks and Sons, actually a local company here. I've never heard of them until we actually started doing the bid process. And after actually looking into them, they actually manufacture all their own cranes. It's all right done in a local shop. I talked to 3 or 4 different guys that actually has their overhead jib cranes and stuff, and they say they do fantastic work, good service. So our recommendation is to award the contract to B.I. Brooks and Sons for $50,120.
More questions?
I have a couple. This new crane, it could operate year-round?
Yes,
So-
the new crane, yeah, absolutely. The new
Ice
crane is
wouldn't
all
bother?
the new crane is all NEMA 4 rated, so it'll all be NEMA 4 enclosures and everything. We won't have that same problem anymore. Because the problem we got now is the ice that sits on the tracks. So if it's icy outside or something, we've got to pull a pump. It's not happening because the train actually run on a cleat. Well, it ices up and the grounding bars will ground out. It just shuts her down. So that's the end of that. So the new crane, yes, will be. It's all NEMA 4 enclosure, so it's all outdoor rated.
And then the other question is just for my own education. On these winch speeds, 32/5.2 feet per minute?
Yep. Basically, you can either get a 2-speed or a 1-speed. So it just depends on how fast you actually want that to go down.
So-
That lift station, basically, we're pulling out is 50 foot. So if it can go 30 foot in a minute, I'm perfectly fine with that. The problem you get into running 2 and 3 speeds, like the guys out here at the intermodal, when they're actually pulling those cars off, they're actually on a mission to get the cars on and off. I don't need to go down 50
Yeah.
feet in 30 seconds. The
That's
problem
what-
with that is that wheel gets to spinning, that drum gets to spinning, and a lot of times that wheel, that wire cable that's on there will actually jump, and then it starts to tangle up. So I'm fine with the single speed. It'll take a minute to get down there to the bottom to pull the pumps and pull them back up. So I thought that's perfectly fine. So
Yeah, a
we're
minute
we're not in a race. I just
Minute or 3/4 of a minute?
yeah. That's why I thought that's perfectly fine with
Okay,
us.
well,
I mean, if it can get down there in a minute, I'm perfectly fine.
That's
with
what
that.
I thought this was saying, but I didn't,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never seen it expressed that way.
Yeah, you're absolutely
There's
correct.
a winch space
And there's
in my
actually one on
memory
each
that.
side. There's actually,
Laser blue.
and the problem is another thing, when they built that, if they would have built that stand that it's sitting on instead of 21.2 feet, I think, if they would have extended that out to 24 feet, we wouldn't need that little crane on the end because we've actually got a grinder. So when the flow comes into the plant, there's actually a little muffin monster is actually the name of it. But it's a grinder, so everything that gets coming in through that 36-inch line gets ground up. We have to pull that. So we have to pull that every year, sometimes twice a year, 3 times a year to service it, or if somebody decides to flush a 6x6 or if one guys are out there doing some tapping or some cleaning, sometimes it pushes some of the big cookies down when they tap the lines. Those will actually get caught, and we'll have to pull that unit up, and to do that, we have to use that little bitty crane on the end. So if they would initially, when they built that, if they would have built another 4 foot wider, we'd only have to use the one crane. So the way it is now, we've got to use a pair of them. So the little one on the end's fine, but the big one is non-operational now. So we did put some new controls on there. They're all wireless that can be used with this system. So
I have no more questions.
The electrical that's ran out to it is compatible with what we've got?
yes,
I mean,
yeah,
looks
yeah,
pretty
it's-
low horsepower, so it's.
Yeah, it's all 3-phase stuff. It's pretty simple. I was talking, every one of them, I actually sit down there, every one of the vendors actually come out, looked at the site, measured, did all the measurements on it. They were all pretty right on line. They all said about the grounding bar. They're the ones that brought that up and said, well, if you do this, you're gonna have to add the grounding bar. Fine, let's put it in here. If that's what OSHA says, let's just get it done and be done with it. So yeah, it's pretty easy project. Boom truck, pull the old one off, put the new one on, done. So wired up, it's probably a day's worth of work. So
Okay.
Pretty easy.
$2,000.
What's the lifespan of one of these?
Well, this one's been in for 17 years, I'm sure, and that was an indoor rated one. So this one being outdoor rated, we won't have to be having this conversation again probably in 20 years. So I'm guessing it'll probably last 30 or 40 years no more. We use it probably 5 to 10 times a year, but when you need it, you need it. Like I say, there's 4 pumps in there. We use it at least twice a year minimum, and that's if we don't have any problems. So, and it is deep. The wet well's 50 foot deep. So, and I think you'll see on there that all the cable, they started out with like 45 foot, but wasn't deep enough. So went ahead and put a 65 foot roll on there because they only make it in 15 foot increments. So that's why you see the 65 foot on a lot of them. So.
Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve recommendation of City Council to award a contract to B.I. Brooks and Sons for $50,120 plus taxes, insurance, and shipping for supply and installation of a bridge crane at the Kill Creek Lift Station for Kill Creek Lift Station CIP project WW1806.
Second.
Motion Waldman, second Crevens. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Project updates.
There was a agenda item that I had to remove from the agenda. It was the water and wastewater rate subcommittee recommendations. On October 1st, City Council will be presenting again the 4 options for a water supply alternatives. So the recommendation we have from the subcommittee was to go with a 2 million gallon day upgrade at Hillsdale. Since they want to review the all 4 alternatives again, it didn't make sense for us coming today and making a recommendation that perhaps doesn't make sense. So hopefully after we had the meeting on October 1st, we can revise our recommendation.
Okay. Thank you.
Electric distribution, you have pictures. We installed and terminated cables for 4 new duplexes at residents at Moonlight Park. Completely replacing the old single-phase overhead power line on Center Street between Pawnee and Apache Lane. This is setting the transformer on the pad. This is for the project school, which is next to Coleman. It's showing we replaced a section of the old drying bed floor. This is at the Kill Creek Water Resort Recovery Facility. And then maybe Scott can give a little more information.
Yeah, basically what we got there is on the right, the picture on the right was basically the old drying beds. It's old technology. When that plant was put in 2002, it was still kind of old technology, but the drying beds are basically 125 foot long, and they're 16 foot wide, and they basically will treat 28,000 gallons of liquid sludge. That's kind of an old way of doing things. Basically the way that works is we would actually open the valves up on each one of the sides, and we would take the digested sludge. We'd actually put that on the beds by opening the valves. They bring that liquid up to about 14 to 18 inches on the top of that drying bed. What they would do then is sit there for 24 hours. After the 24 hours, the vacuum pump would kick on, suck all the non-potable water back. We'd run that back through the headworks. The sludge would sit on there. You got about 8 to 10 inches of sludge. We take a bobcat with a nylon cutting edge on the front of it, scoop it up, throw it in a dumpster. You'd have a guy with a 2-inch hose has to clean the whole bed. The biggest problem with that is you couldn't get Devon Ball to pick the dumpsters up fast enough. So we've got 2 of those on the sides. And we basically got away with that back, 8, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe now. We went with a belt filter press. What that does basically is the filters that runs the sludge now that we used to put on the bed will actually go through a filter press. There's 2 belts on there, and basically what it does, it squeezes all the water out. It runs it through a series of belts and it puts it on a conveyor and basically dumps it into a Now we contract through Synagro. Instead of using the 20-yard containers we used to use, now we use basically 40 tons, a semi-trailer. And we contract through Synagro. The farmer uses out in Lewisburg, and he land applies it. What that does for us is, you don't have to go out there and take the Bobcat, and we can actually produce a lot more sludge. Basically, what we're doing now, we're doing about 40 tons a week of sludge. Before, on that, by the time it was done, you couldn't get 20 tons because the amount of dryness, you get about 10, 11%. Now we're getting 16 to 17. So it's basically more dry tons per unit in that haul that we actually get hauled away. So it's a lot better system, and we're actually looking next year to replace that belt press because it's 30-some years old. But the technology is way different. Basically, what you're seeing there, we started pulling those tiles out where you can kind of see on the left, you kind of see the 2 tanks where our belt filter press sits. Next year, we're looking at replacing that with something different, either another belt press or a rotary fan screw. There's lots of different technologies out there now. We pulled some of those black tiles out just to get ready for that. Basically what we're doing. And we'll eventually pull all of them out. Basically, the way that actually sits down, it slopes. Then there's under drains underneath of that, which was where you got the vacuum from. And you can kind of see the rock on top. It's basically round river rock because you don't want it to have any sharp edges to hold any of the sludge would actually go through there. And then they put that tile on top, and they actually caulk those tiles in with epoxy caulk. What we did, we just started pulling them off. So basically now we're back down to concrete. It's still kind of unlevel because it slopes inward, but now you've got a nice even concrete floor to work off of. So when we get ready to put our, whatever we decide we're going to go with next year, we'll be ready for it. So we kind of keep the one on the right operational. If for some reason, which I don't ever see it happen, we actually do have to go back and get rid of some sludge, we can actually still pour on the right-hand side of that. So that's the only reason why we haven't did anything with the one on the right.
Thank you, Scott.
You bet.
Then install a new filter screen on the orbital water filter in the headworks building. Pull the check valve at the Willowbrook lift station due to rags in the impeller. That's an ongoing problem. Then complete installation of sump pumps at the Kill Creek lift station. There's several pictures. Line maintenance. There's like a few things here. Basically, on the Justice Center, inspected and tested the 12x8 tap-in sleeves. The water, 2-inch water service taps completed, chlorinated the fire lines, and did the bacteria sampling. The fire lines passed all tests and put in service. So as far as the water for the Justice Center, the system is ready for acceptance. Plum Creek Manor, pressure tested, chlorinated the water lines, and took back T samplings, passed all tests, inspected 6 water main connections, and put in service. Again, the water system for Plum Creek Manor 4 is ready. Crew installed 7 frost-free hydrant to supply water for the Park and Rec event celebration park that smokes on the trail. They didn't have any way of supplying potable water, so we recommended doing this. I should recommend it, and they liked the idea, so we went ahead and installed 7 hydrants. Repair water main breaks at Wheatbridge Elementary School, estimated water loss of 70,000 gallons. And we have water leak detectors probably back in March. So we're doing going around town to identify any potential water leaks in the distribution system. Other businesses, I'm trying to get our first meeting for the electric rate subcommittee. So far, I haven't been able to have all the members meet at once. And Clint Barney's on vacation or he's out of town, hopefully when he gets back, we can set up a time so we can meet and review the projections that Burns and Mac did for the electric rate study. And that's basically all I have for this evening.
Anything else from anybody?
Thank you. No.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion Molden, second Crevens to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Hey, was that wheat rig water break? Was that when the water went down to quarter of the city up there?
Washington Street?
Well, I was on off of Moonlight, 167th Terrace. We just one night hit the water at about 2 in the morning or whatever it was. The water just.
That was a 12-inch break on 167.
Okay.
12-inch line break.
That's a difference.
I paid the bill.
There's been a lot of